Matt Stoker. I'm joined today by Zach Lewis and our guest, Ron Gross, president of the Southwest Conflict Resolution Network. Ron, thanks for coming in.
Sure. Pleasure to be here.
Tell us a little bit about, before we get started on our topic today, which is apologies. So I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about the Southwest Conflict Resolution Network. Quite a mouthful.
Quite a mouthful, so we just call it the CRN. It's easier to say and takes less words.
That works.
So the CRN is a nonprofit professional organization dedicated to the facilitation, awareness, and advancement of dispute resolution through education, networking, and community involvement. We have guest speakers, we have experts come and speak on all areas of psychology and leadership training, conflict coaching, religious dialogue, ethics, just to name a few of the small things we talk about. It's open not just to members, but even to the public at large. So if any topic interests you, we meet once a month and have really amazing speeches, and dinner is free too.
Oh.
I know, you can't beat that.
You can't beat that.
Yeah, how do you swing free dinner? How does that work?
Right, see? Anything to promote peace. We have a website, SWCRN.org, where you can go and you can look for mediator. We have lots of mediators in all kinds of fields of expertise, from family, divorce, and business, which is our most common areas, to things even like landlord-tenant, elder mediation, healthcare mediation, insurance mediation, and even child abduction.
So you're not just putting on events. I mean, you guys are in the trenches. You are solving problems for people.
We are mediators, conflict coaches, and we deal in all areas of both family and business life.
How did you get into this line of work?
I have a long story and a short story.
Well, let's do the short story so we have time for our topic.
So I was a builder for 25 years doing custom homes, and there's a lot of conflict in the construction industry, as you can imagine. I did some mediations and just for some friends, and someone said to me, "Are you a professional?" And I said, "Professional what?" He said, "Professional mediator." I'm like, "That's a job?" So I went out, I found a program at SMU, which is a phenomenal program, and I got my master's degree in it, and I've left construction, and now I'm doing this.
So you found you just had a knack for seeing both sides of an issue, or getting people to communicate together, or a little
getting
bit,
people to communicate. I think the first time I did it was I had two people in the room who had been fighting as I'd learned for decades.
Wow.
And I got them in 3 hours to get up and hug each other. Because they'd never really spoken to each other, never really heard each other. And that's, you have to want to, but that takes time and direction. And I got them to open up to each other, and once they heard each other, really heard each other, they found they had a lot more in common than I thought they did. And the conflicts just melted away.
I imagine that a lot of conflicts probably come down to something similar to that. And I mean, me not being an expert on the issue, but this could lead into our topic. But people who have had years-long grievances with each other, probably by that point they're just not talking to each other. They're not trying to move the ball in any direction, much less find a compromise. They're just not speaking.
They're not speaking. They're not listening.
Yeah.
Listening is not just done with your ears. Listening is interesting because the Chinese symbol for listening actually has got 5 parts to it. It's not just your ears. You listen with your ears, listen with your eyes, listen with your head, listen with your heart, listen with your soul. And when you break it down to those areas, when you really talk to someone and look at them in the eye and listen, most people do one thing, myself included. We listen to respond. We listen to something, and as they're talking, we're already having a response in our head. That's not what happens. What you're supposed to do is listen to understand. What are you really saying? Why are you really feeling? Why do you feel this way? What did I do, or what did someone else do that made you feel this way? When you listen to understand, and your brain isn't thinking about your response as they're talking, you hear things that you never heard before, and you become more empathetic, and that comes through. And if someone really listens to you and they get you, like when you have a spouse or a child or a parent who gets you, that's a connection that is powerful. And then you're much more forgiving because they're now part of you. They're not just a party you're fighting against.
Yeah, I think colloquially we say, you're hearing me, but you're not listening to me.
Right.
You know, you're hearing the words that I'm saying, but you're not paying attention to my meaning behind them, or internalizing it, or thinking about it, or anything like that. You're just hearing me and waiting to when it's your turn to speak.
That's right. We also talk in codes. We talk in words that mean things to us, but someone else might have different meanings to it. We don't always say exactly what we're thinking. We have a fight with someone, a spouse or a friend, you fall into these, patterns of speech, and you're saying, oh yeah, same old thing.
Yeah.
But really, they're saying something, and today is different than yesterday. And if you really listen to it, you'll hear the difference and you'll respond to it, and that's where you make the connection.
I have this problem with my wife a lot, which I have to apologize for, because I have a way of speaking which is, say for instance, in my language, when I say something's fine, it's fine. That means I'm okay with it. It means I'm good with it. It's fine to me. In her language, it is, you're saying it's fine. You're saying it's not the best. You're not really okay with it, but you're agreeing to go along with it. And constantly we're having disagreements where I say, hey, do you want to go to this place? Yeah, it's fine. And she says, well, what's your problem with it? And I say, no, that's not what I meant. But I'm too dug in on the way I speak, and I think she's too dug in on the way she understands it. So constantly I'm having to apologize and say, I didn't mean that. I meant it this way, and let's try to get past this.
Right. So you have to learn the words.
Right.
Mediation and communication is learning the words, like any other language. So sometimes we get stuck in our own head with our own words, and like you just said, we're even though when you say fine, somewhere she's
going to misunderstand.
Well,
me.
she's not hearing what you're saying.
Yeah.
You mean this is good for me, and she hears, in this case, this is just like okay, but there is better. So you have to change your words or elaborate.
Yeah.
Right? Not this is fine, but I would love to have a hamburger tonight. That's fine. You didn't change the fine, but you added an extra word, extra line. Now she goes, okay, he loves to have a hamburger, perfect. And now it's you move the topic to a different place.
Ron, as somebody who works in the audio business, I gotta say that it's relatively profound. Somebody who wears headphones and talks to a microphone. But I wanted to ask you about something. I've been rereading some old stuff lately, and some people might judge me for saying this is reading, but I think it is. Bill Watterson wrote a strip called Calvin and Hobbes in the 80s and 90s. I'm not sure if you're familiar.
I own all the books.
Yes, I've been rereading Calvin and Hobbes, and one of the strips that I think about a lot when I think about the art of the conversation being in the audio business is a strip when Calvin related conversation to like a football game, and the trick to winning a conversation argument, to besting your, quote, opponent in any kind of social interaction is to be able to steal the ball back as soon as you can and run into the end zone before they get the opportunity to get a word in edgewise. That was the whole bit. Why do you think we've gotten, and that was in the 80s he wrote this strip, maybe early 90s. How is it that not only was that profound then, but it still applies now? How did we get to a point in society where we're just waiting for each other to finish speaking before we can just put in our 2 cents?
Because most times we talk, we're in a competition. We want to win. Winning is a big part of our culture. So it doesn't have to be football. We can, I could be saying, I want the mic more time than you. I want to win. Everything is winning. In mediation, it's not about winning. Right? It's about ending up in the same place together. So you think there's like 2 roads far apart, and they at some point converge together. That's what a mediation is. So we're not both going our separate ways, each having taken some part of the pot. We actually ended in the same place together. I support your view, and you support my view because we understand each other, and we agree you should get this and I should get that because that's fair. But if you never actually have this conversation, you never get there. If you never drive down the road, you never get there. So the question is, where do you want to drive? So people sometimes want to drive opposite directions. Our job is to put them to come drive together instead of sort of like herd them towards each other.
And I think this concept of winning and losing ties nicely into our topic today, which is apologies, which I think for a lot of people, an apology means I lost. I lost this argument, or I lost this disagreement. I'm apologizing, which means I'm waving the white flag of surrender and saying, fine, you're right. I was wrong all along.
You're conceding defeat.
Exactly,
yes.
Exactly. And I think that's probably why they're so hard to come by.
Right. So interesting because it's exactly the opposite. It's so funny. And you're right, but people think that. Exactly opposite for this one reason. Can you imagine what it would feel like if you would apologize and not feel bad about it? How strong do you have to be to apologize, to accept a mistake you did and not feel bad about it? That's strength. So to apologize properly, you're a strong person. I can apologize and still be where I am today and still be the person I am and not be less. I'm that strong. So people who apologize because they've been beaten down, that's not the apology you want to give. You want to give the one from strength where Yes, I can admit I did something wrong, and I'm still, person I am. I don't feel less. So you have to be stronger to apologize properly, not weaker. So actually the opposite of what the perception is. But apology, it doesn't just, it doesn't end a discussion as you would think. Oh, I apologize and we're done. Right? That's what people say. Okay, let me just get it over with. I'll just apologize.
Right. Apologies, I think, for a lot of people, including myself, come at the end of an hour-long fight and you're just tired and you want to go to bed and say, fine, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I ever said this. I'm sorry I existed. I apologize. Let's have dinner and just be quiet.
So if you can do an apology, and we'll go through the steps of an apology, if you can get through the 8 steps of an apology, it will start something. You will end up in a better place than before you start. You started. What was that? There's a song. I forget who did it. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Mm-hmm. It's a Lisa recent song. I'm behind the times in pop music. If you can do this, well, you'll end up in a better place. It'll make you stronger and make your relationship stronger. So you actually will end up. Fighting is it's bad while it's happening. If we do this right at the end, we're better off than when we started. Better connection, a stronger connection to the person you just had a fight with.
So what are the main points of an apology?
Well, before I get to the formula for an apology, I want to tell you the primary effect of an apology. The primary effect of an apology, purpose of an apology, is not it's to give something back. It's not to get forgiveness or resolution or restitution. It's to give something back to the person that you've hurt or harmed in some way. You have to heal them. So you've taken something from them, like their dignity or their pride, and you have to give it back to them. That's how you solve. That's how you heal an apology.
That's, of course, assuming this is like a good, honest apology and not it's 1 a.m. and I have to work tomorrow, so whatever, you win, right? This is assuming, of course, you're genuinely being honest and conceding that, you know what, yeah, I've slighted you in this whole hour-long fight was not worth it. Oh. Yeah, like let's let bygones be bygones.
An
right?
apology like a good meal in a restaurant, you can't cook it in 5 minutes. It takes time. So an apology takes time. So if you're going to fight for an hour, you're going to apologize for an hour, and that's just the way it goes. If you fight for 7 hours, it's going to be a longer apology. But you have to actually, put in the time and do it right, like anything else you want to do. So yes, the fast apologies, they don't work, right? And the problem is most people don't know how to say I'm sorry. They don't know how to put those words where they have an effect. So there is a science and there's an art to an apology. Okay? The art is the manner in which you say it. The science is the recipe that forms that apology. Let's talk about the science part, the elements of an apology. So if you don't mind, I'd like to sort of list you all 8 elements.
Okay.
Then we can discuss them in detail, each one. But I want to sort of lay out the groundwork for you, give you the big picture. Okay. You have to give a detailed account of what happened. Not, let me do that. Then you have to acknowledge the hurt or damage you did. Take responsibility for what happened. Recognition of your role in the event. A statement of regret, a statement asking for forgiveness, a promise that won't happen again, and some kind of restitution or whatever format entails. Those 8 points is how you make an apology. So let's break it down because that's kind of vague and too big picture.
Sure.
Okay. Acknowledge the damage you've done. So you got that means you're taking their feelings and you're validating them. So they understand that you understand what happened. You think you just said a word, I'm fine. It's not what you said. You maybe they thought that you're mocking or denigrating their suggestion. Mm-hmm. So you can't say saying something like if I insulted you, I'm sorry. There's no if.
I'm sorry I offended you. I think I hear people say that quite a lot. Quite a lot online even. Sorry I offended. Sorry if you were offended.
I'm a big fan of the sorry if I may have offended you because that doesn't admit anything.
Right.
Yeah. That's sorry if you misperceived this.
Right.
Yes.
Add the word if and it's worth nothing.
Right.
Right. So you have to say something. You have to say something like, I know I've hurt you. I know I've done X, Y, Z to you, and it was not my intention. Okay, so now you've acknowledged you've done something. That's the first step. Take responsibility. So it's not like don't offer excuses. It's not like, I'm always running late. So, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry I was late to dinner tonight. I'm sorry I made you wait in the lobby for an hour for me. Not you're always running late. That's like about you. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry I made you wait in the lobby. It's about them. It's what you caused them to experience or feel. I'm sorry you were embarrassed by me. I'm sorry, whatever it is. I'm sorry you thought that I didn't think your choice of a restaurant was really good.
Right.
I'm sorry I made you feel that it was just adequate. I'm sorry I made you feel that way. Be explicit, because otherwise they'll say they don't get me. Like they don't know what they did. Right? Very often you'll apologize to someone and they'll say, "Do you know what you did?" You're like, "I don't know. Maybe." You have to think about it. This requires a little thought. What did you not what did you do? What did they feel? So it's like, it's you could brush someone by in the mall. You just slightly brush them by and you think, oh, it's just no big deal brush. But they could have had maybe a scar on their arm and they're in like crazy pain now. So you're like, well, it's a big deal. I just touched you. No, but they didn't feel just a touch. They felt this stabbing pain. So it's not what you did, it's what they felt.
I think part of a good apology then is some trust that the other person is being honest with you about what happened, or at least getting that far. So in that situation that you said, you brush past someone, if they're acting like it hurts them, then at some point, in order to make a good apology, I have to trust that they actually were slighted by whatever it was I did, and they're not just making a production of it, or they're not just whatever. I mean, I know that's probably not a healthy attitude to carry around. You should trust people. But I think in order to make a good apology, you need to really believe that whatever it was that they say you did is actually happened, was the truth.
Right. So one of the tools we use in the mediation, and it's good in all parts in life, is let's say you have a doubt, right? Nothing is as easy to do as ask a question. I'm really sorry I brushed against you. I see you're in terrible pain. I'm so sorry. Where does it hurt? Mm-hmm. Well, why does it hurt so much? Where did I hit you? How did I, right? And ask questions.
Right.
And they'll tell you, oh, I just had arm surgery, and that's what, then now you feel even worse, right? Now your apology will be even more sincere, even though really there's no thing is more sincere. There's sincere, there's not.
Yeah.
But you'll show it better. You may not have felt so sincere after, a little brush. You feel like, yeah, I touched you, but now that they told you they had a cut, and then now you'll feel more emotion, and that comes through. When you emote, people see that. Something
I wanted to ask about, and I didn't want to. I maybe should have saved this for the end, but I didn't want to get lost in the next 6 points. The acknowledgement, the first two, the acknowledgement of kind of hurt and the acceptance of responsibility for that. I think for me, sometimes maybe I'm just inherently sound sarcastic, but I feel like when I get in an argument with somebody and I double back to that, people think I'm lying. Self-defense is up. They think you're being sarcastic. Ha ha, like you really mean that. You know what I mean? Well, do you have any advice for kind of breaking through that and saying, no, like really, I realize I'm kind of wrong here, and I'm trying to do the right thing.
Well, again, ask a question. You can say the same thing. I'm really sorry I insulted you in some way. I know it must have been really terrible to have listened to this thing. Please tell me, what did you feel? Let them talk about let them tell you what they felt. If they tell you what they felt, they're being honest, and by opening to you it's like two doors open up at the same time. So the more if you don't know what you did, if you don't know why the reaction is so strong, and then you want to get defensive because you think that, they're overreacting, ask. I really didn't intend to hurt you so much. You look like you're really in pain. Mm-hmm. I'm really sorry you're in that much pain. Please tell me why you're in so much pain. To me, it looked like it was this. Please tell me. And they'll tell you.
Right. You have to. You don't want to condescend. Yeah. You don't want to tell them how they feel.
Right.
Right. You don't want to assume or let them know that you're assuming. Here's how you feel about this. Yeah. I can get behind that.
Exactly. Anytime you're going to put the word assume in a thought, you know that you're going down the wrong path. It's whatever way assume takes you, go the other way.
Better to know explicitly what's happening.
Because you will be surprised. I promise you will be shocked at how many things you will learn of way people think or feel that you thought, because you feel one way, they must feel that way too, right? We have a tendency toward that. We have a bias toward imposing our thoughts on someone else. you'll learn a lot about people you know and love by asking the question rather than assuming. And then you get closer.
Okay.
And then there's an openness.
So let's talk about, let's break down the rest of these points real quick. And I want to get to some scenarios before we come to the end here.
Okay. So you have to include a statement of regret. The words, I'm sorry and I apologize.
It's important to include the actual words, I am sorry.
You actually have to put the words there.
Yeah.
I mean, and there are people who have a very hard time saying that.
Yes.
But it's like when you if you crash your car and the insurance company comes out and they say, okay, we look around and they're going to give you a check, right? Their check fulfills a requirement they have, what's called making you whole, right? They're bringing you back to where you were. Right? The I'm sorry makes the other person whole. That's the part. That's the check. If you don't say the I'm sorry, you could say everything else right. You missed this point. It's like steak with no salt. Not good enough.
Yeah.
Ask for forgiveness. And here's the important part. I said earlier that we have to give them back the power in order, because you took something away from them, whether it's their pride or whatever you did when you hurt them. You have to give them back the power. This is where it happens when you ask for forgiveness, because now they have the power to say yes or no. You have to make yourself vulnerable and say, I'm really sorry I did this. I know it must have made you feel really bad. I feel terrible about it. I apologize. Will you please forgive me? And then wait. Now, you may have a couple rounds of this because you've spoken, but they need to speak too. Mm-hmm. Don't forget, it's not like you did the insulting, you did the asking, you're done. Not all about you. You have to give them the right to vent, to say, to whatever, and that's fine. They'll say what they want to say, and you'll say, you're right, I hear you now, and I didn't know how much I insulted you that way, and now I feel even worse. Will you forgive me?
And I think it's important to note here that simply giving an apology, no matter how sincere, is not a magic wand that ends an argument or ends a conflict. Emotions are still at play here. So if you say, all right, I acknowledge that everything you've said is true, or whatever the scenario, I apologize. That doesn't mean the other person has to then immediately switch off and say, okay, you're right, I forgive you. It may take some time. You may have to repeat that apology over and over and over again until they understand, one, that you're being sincere, and two, they're not mad at you anymore.
Right. Well, and the last part is the second last part is recognizing your role, saying I did this, not it happened. I'm always late, so it just happened. It's just my nature. No.
Right.
I did this. I came late. I made you wait. I embarrassed you. I did whatever I did. I made you feel like your choice of restaurant. We're going to use it a lot today.
I appreciate that.
I made you feel I wasn't that you weren't. Maybe she. And I'm just guessing, but maybe she feels that when you say fine, you're saying you don't think about me that much. You don't care about me that much. You're picking like something that I don't really like that much. So but she's thought about it a long time, and she wanted to find a place that she knew you would like today because you're a hamburger guy.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And I am a hamburger guy.
There you go. So the I part is this. I did this is a very important part. Take responsibility, right? These are powerful. You're putting out their powerful emotions. If the person you're talking to is in any way sincere, and even if they're not, it usually gets them that way, you'll get a response that will be equally powerful and equally emotional. And that's where forgiveness happens. That's where the success happens. And the last thing is restitution. You know what? Tomorrow you pick the restaurant, and wherever you pick is perfect. I'll go, or tomorrow I'll pick the restaurant, or whatever. You have to make it up somehow. Okay?
Offering something in return.
Something in return. It's because it's also like you took something from, you have to pay back. So you paid back emotionally, you paid back responsibility, you paid back with words. Now pay back with actions. So whatever, and it could be anything. I mean, it could be words, it could be flowers. I mean, I come home, I bring my wife home flowers, right? I do what she loves flowers, and she knows that I went out of my way to the store, looked for her favorite flower or her favorite color or whatever, and I took time. I thought about. It means the idea of apologizing was in my head for a while. I'm thinking about her. I care about her. It's important to me.
Right.
You have to show that.
So throughout this discussion, we've talked a lot about personal relationships, your spouse, your friends, your family. I think apologies in a way, may be in some way easier to come by in some of those scenarios because they're people that you love and they're people in your life. I'm really curious what happens in the business world. I'm curious where apologies are. I've worked in a lot of companies where people who probably should be apologizing feel like they don't owe someone an apology. Or perhaps an employee who made a mistake maybe doesn't want to apologize because they're afraid that they may be punished, or they're afraid of or they just don't like their boss and they say, I'm not apologizing to that jerk. Like, it's his fault anyway that I made this mistake. They didn't train me properly, or they're working me too hard or something like that. How do you get people, what are the scenarios that you can make an apology in a business sense where you don't lose face to the other person?
It's almost the same answer, like we said in the very beginning. Making an apology is a sign of strength. If you say, I'm sorry, I was wrong, and you hang your head, that's not strong. Making an apology where you say, I know I did this. I know that it caused this. I feel bad about this. I'll be way more careful next time. I'm sorry that it caused you some problems, because clearly your boss, if you did something wrong, they're going to pay some price. I know it caused you some problems. I'm really sorry for that. What can I do to make it up? Wow, that's a strong thing to say.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of guts to say that. It takes guts. Well, if you do that, you get respect for that. You don't get knocked down. They'll think themselves, and I've been in both the employee and the employer role, and I've done both, and it's hard to do. I'm not saying it's easy. It's harder as an employee than an employer for me, but I understand that, to admit guilt, because I may get fired or something.
Right.
When you say those things, when you show them that you understand both sides of it, what you did, what they did, you won't do it again, you're aware of it, you're aware of what happened to them, well, you're now a stronger employee. Right? I once went to a Best Buy. I wanted to buy a radio or something. And I said, well, we have new ones, but we have refurbished ones. So I'm thinking, I want to get a new one, right? The guys tell me, get the refurbished ones. Because new ones come off the factory. And no one looked at it. They just right one after another. And they come, and sometimes they have defects. But the refurbished ones, those people look at. We spend hours on them, make sure they're perfect. They have a lot of eyes on them. Those are really good. Get those. Mm. So the thing that was quote unquote damaged or not perfect ended up being stronger than what seems to be perfect.
Because people are paying attention.
Right. Same thing with an apology. You think that it makes you weak, it makes you strong. If you could do it right, look them in the eye. Now there is a whole world of apologies that are either written or verbal. I'm a big fan of talking an apology to a person face to face, because that's, again, it's harder. You're stronger for it. The written one, you can make perfect words. You have time to sit there and work on the words and make it perfect. But it shows that you were not quite courageous enough to say it face to face. And people get that.
Yeah. Before we run out of time, I do want to talk a little bit about, this has been in the news a lot, of the public apology, the celebrity apology, or the politician or whatever. Someone has been caught doing something and they have to come and try to save face somehow and apologize, not to a specific person maybe, but just to culture, to the public, the court of public opinion, as people call it. Have you seen, what are some instances that you see? I mean, I assume all the steps are the same, but the delivery may be a little bit different.
So they are, and we spend a lot of time looking at those because they're great examples of apologies. Most of them are done poorly the first time and poorly the second time. Usually the third or fourth when they get it right. And we can go through Mel Gibson or a whole bunch of ones where they just didn't get it. If I may have hurt you and I'm sorry to... No. So there's an example a number of years ago. The JetBlue, there was a storm and there was bad service and people complained. Right? The CEO got on the radio and made a video apology, sent it to all, put on the website. And the CEO said, "I wasn't in the control room and I wasn't the person. It wasn't, but it's my company and I trained them and it's my fault. I didn't do my job properly, and because of that, you all had to pay a price, and I apologize for that. I will do my job better. We will do these 7 things from now on." Right? Blew everybody away. That was that was the best apology I've seen in public, because he took responsibility. He spoke to everyone like they were individuals. He told them what he did wrong, what he would do to fix it, how he understood their frustration and anger and pain, what he would do to make it up to them. Public. So any public official who needs to apologize, there are people who, a lot of them don't do it well, but they could.
Yeah. And corporations are probably the same way. I'm sure the idea of looking weak, or I'm sure a lot of that gets factored into it. They think, oh, I can't apologize because then I'm admitting a mistake. But I think you see it happen time and time again, where a corporation makes a big mistake, they apologize, and maybe they come back stronger than ever.
They always come back stronger than ever, because people are forgiving by nature, and people feel if you're sincere with them, and if you really felt regret, and you make it up to them in some way, and you fix it, so then their feelings are now validated, people forgive.
Yeah. Well, Ron, I apologize, but we are out of time. I wish we could go a little bit longer. Ron Gross, president of the Southwest Conflict Resolution Network. Tell people how to find out more about the Conflict Resolution Network.
Go online, SWCRN.org. You could click on our events to see what's going on. You can click on contact us. Just go to our paid board directors, and you can find all our emails, and you can call us. There's a whole list of people. There's a list of different specialties. Click on that and see if you want to hire one or call one and get advice or something. I mean, it's just a great portal. I'm there. I'm under president at SWCRN.org, and we're there. We're there to help make your life better.
Great, Ron. I appreciate you sitting down with us.
Thank you for that chance. It's been great. Thank you.
You're listening to RNCN, the digital destination for premium talk radio.